We're going to spend some time now talking about the marketing plan that is due for this course. Um, if you, I'm sorry, I'm referencing things on another computer over here. If you look at the syllabus, you will see explanation on page. Starting at the end of page 3 and carrying over to page 4, it's not very lengthy, and so that's the reason for this video to supplement that. The marketing plan is the primary goal of this course. In your dealings in the business world, whether you choose to go into business for yourself, or if you choose to work for someone else, or continue on working for someone else if you're serving in that capacity now, you may have need to produce a business plan. It may be very formal and lengthy. It may be very informal and abbreviated. It's something that you revisit and maybe reproduce every couple of years even. Once you have the process down, it is something that you can turn out fairly quickly. And so that is the goal of this course, is to kind of give you the framework of the what is needed in order to produce that the marketing plan. Hopefully you've already obtained the textbook by now, Marketing for Entrepreneurs by Frederick Crane, 2nd edition. This is hopefully you have picked up the 2nd edition. There are some changes, although they are not extensive. There are some additions to this ADDITIONS additions to this edition, and so I think they'll be beneficial. One of them, the big one, is the inclusion of a sample entrepreneurial marketing plan. That's Appendix A, starting on page 205, towards the end of the book. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll also talk about the requirements, the grading, and the sort of midterm submission of an outline or a draft of your marketing plan. So hopefully we'll be able to hit all of those things in this video. Let's see here. Purposes of a marketing plan. If you are in the ETP 279 course, we're talking about not only the overall business plan, but also a excuse me. We're also in 279. We're talking about business plan as well as the feasibility plan, which is sort of a study to determine whether or not a business makes sense. A good example of that would be the Apple iPad. Apple actually had the idea for the iPad concept, probably 15 to 20 years before they actually produced the first iPad. So why did they not do it? Well, I don't know that they actually carried through with an official feasibility study or feasibility plan, but something, albeit maybe even informal, was put together, and there was a determination made that the market was not ready. Consumers were not ready for this type of product, and so they kind of put it up on a shelf for 10, 15 years, and brought it back out. Someone said, "Hey, do you remember that? Way back when we had this concept? Let's see about revisiting that now." And so that's the benefit of a feasibility study, is to determine whether or not the market is ready for what you have to offer. A marketing plan is actually, a business plan actually incorporates the marketing plan. We'll be covering the marketing plan in this course. The marketing plan focuses on issues that are specific to design, development, distribution, pricing, things of that nature. The business plan, and that is kind of incorporated into the overall business plan. The business plan includes the finances as well as HR, legal, and many other issues. And so that's that's the way you can kind of think about those being separated. But our focus in this course in 265 is the marketing plan. And so as the syllabus talks about, you will be required to produce a marketing plan to make sure that you are on course. Well, let me back up a little bit. Do not have a a template for you to go by, a Word document already prepared for you to go by. And so I would two places where you can kind of get some guidance with that, with respect to how to put it together. Number one is the what's provided in Appendix A of this book. Number two is if you will look in the syllabus and other documents link inside of this course over on the left margin when you log into Blackboard. It's about the 8th or 10th link or so over there on the left side. I don't have it counted, but when you go in there, you will see a link to the syllabus. You will also see a link. The second one is titled Marketing Plan Grading Rubric. I would encourage you to go ahead and open that. Save it somewhere for quick reference, or print it out so you can see it and be able to know what the requirements are. These are the things that I'm going to be grading you on. I want to see this content, certainly more than this, but at the very least I want to see this content in your final plan. Okay, so why would you not want to know the framework of what you're being graded on? This is it. Here it is. There's no question about, or there should be no question, when the end of the semester gets here and you're wondering, well, what kind of grade am I going to get? It's laid out right here. We've got 4 columns that I'm just going to quickly talk through this. 4 columns that lay out what I'm going to be considering. Low quality, mid, high, top quality. As it shows here in the first column there on the left, insufficient or poor quality means that the category as defined across the left side, we'll go over those categories in a minute, the category information is inadequate, not professional quality, does not appear to be viable or likely to contribute to the overall plan. And if the content that you have placed in there or lack of content in your plan for a given category, again I'll get to those categories here in just a moment, falls within that definition, then you will receive 0 to 35% of the points possible for that given category. Okay, the second measure is needs some improvement. This category of information offers the potential to contribute to the overall plan, but significant revisions are needed. And if it falls within that definition, then you will receive between 36 to 70% score of the category score. For example, let me just go ahead and point out the first one here. Underneath on page 1 of this rubric, under the product heading, one of the categories is define your product or service. So there are 10 points possible for defining your product or service, and you don't want to just say, well, I've got an oil change business. That's not simple enough. Excuse me, that is too simple, too simplistic. You want to give more than a one-line description of what it is that you will be offering, be it a service or a product. And so, since that category line is worth 10 points, if it's determined that it needs some improvement, has some potential, it may receive 65%. And so you would get 65% of 10 points, and so you would get 6.5 points for that particular category. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. The third column, getting back to the definitions across the top, the scoring, it's called very good. This category of information is usable as is and is likely to contribute to the overall plan. The contents would be described as solid rather than stellar. So decent information for the given line item there, and the score range is 71 to 85% of the available points. The final scoring category definition is top quality. And as it says, category information is ready to be fully implemented in the overall plan. The content is expected to contribute significantly to a positive outcome. And the scoring range for that is 86 to 100%. Okay? All right, so my goal is for you in every category across the left side column to fall into that range. However, that won't necessarily be the case, and it certainly won't be the case if you wait until the last minute to get started on this project. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what it is. You know, the exact content items that I will be looking at and scoring on. They are broken down into several major categories. You can see them in bold there across the left side, and then you've got some almost subcategories. But the major categories are product, pricing, promotion, place or placement, market research, sales forecasting, and differential advantage. So let's talk a little bit about each of those now so you can get a real good understanding of what the expectations are. I don't want there to be any questions, either at the midpoint when you have your draft or outline due, or at the end of the semester when you come back and say, hey, 3 days before it's due, I'm not really sure about this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That's not acceptable. It's all here. Okay. If you have questions beyond this that we're talking about today, you need to let me know ASAP, because at the end of the semester, if you come to me 3 days before it's due, or even a week before it's due, and say, hey, I don't understand, I'm just not getting this, I will help you. I'm not going to deny assistance. However, I will tell you this: that will not be enough time to research and do a quality job and receive a good score. It just won't. I've seen it time and time again. Okay, the expectations are high, but that does not mean that you cannot achieve them, that you cannot meet them. You absolutely can. The point is to get started early. The topics that we cover on a weekly basis, go ahead and figure out how you can incorporate that into your marketing plan. Okay. All right. There are items that we are not going to have covered by. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. All right. So we've covered the grading rubric now. Everyone should understand, and I'm going to double check the math on that. This points possible column should add up to 250 points. If it does not, I'll have some adjusting to do. But if that and if it's not the case, I will repost a revised version of that, the grading rubric, so that everyone will know what they should be operating off of. All right, what categories score how much. Okay, I mentioned a draft or outline. The goal there is to see that you are on pace to complete the project by the end of the semester. Okay, and in order to encourage you to have done something by that point, it's close to the midpoint of the semester, week 8, week 9, somewhere in there. To encourage you to have put something together, I've attached some points to that. Okay, it is approximately, let me look at the syllabus, believe the final grade for the marketing plan is worth 250 points. Okay, the draft or the outline is worth approximately 40% of that, so 100 points. Not approximately, it is. 40% of 250 is 100. So the way that you can think about each of these categories that we talked about, I didn't talk about the subcategories or the specific items, but I will. Going back to the very first page, the product, the one that says define your product or service, worth 10 points. For the draft or outline, the points possible for the draft or outline would be 40% of what the final version expectation will be. Okay, so in this case, 10 points possible for the final times 40%, it equals 4 points. So if you have it, I don't expect it to be completed by the time that you submit the draft or outline, but there will be some expectation that you are making progress towards that by the time you submit the draft outline, and that is what will be worth 4 points. All right, hope that makes sense. It may seem a little bit arbitrary, the scoring on that, well, you haven't clearly defined the expectations. I'm going to be lenient. I promise you, I'm going to be lenient when it comes to the draft or outline. What I want to see is that you're making progress, that you have acknowledged that this line item exists, and you have started including something, that you've laid out your outline, and that you have space set aside for I don't want bullet points. That's not the way you do a marketing plan. But it at the same time, it should not be difficult for me to identify what, going down the next section here, define your cost per unit. It should not be difficult for me to locate that when I start looking through it. All right, if it's challenging for me to find it, and I have to come back to you and say, hey, I'm missing it. Tell me where it is. You're not going to like that. I'm not going to like it. It may cause you to have to put more work into it. That may be what's needed, but that's the way I'm going to be handling that. All that being said, at the time of the draft outline submission, I'm just looking for something to show me that you have acknowledged that this item will need to be included, and that you're starting to make some progress towards fully defining it. Okay, and again, I'm going to be lenient on that. So just show me something. All right. Okay. So that is the how I'll be handling the draft outline, the scoring of each item, the total, the expectations. Hopefully those are clear. Now let's go through each of these subcategories, underneath product pricing, and talk about them a little bit. Underneath product, and this list here is not exhaustive of everything that you should include. There are numerous topics that we're going to be covering throughout this semester, and I hope that you will see the value and the benefits of including many, if not all of them, in your marketing plan. Because the clearer, the more defined that it is, the more likely you are going to be able to carry it out. And so it's to your benefit. It doesn't do me any good, whether you got it in there or not. It's really up to you. But these are the essential components that I do want to see in there. Okay. All right. So I'm talking way too much here. Page 1 of the marketing plan grading rubric. Under product, define your product or service. It sounds fairly straightforward. It's something that you could accomplish in one line, but give a little more. Go into a little more detail about why you selected it. If you've got some history with it, experience, you see a need that maybe hasn't been taken care of in the marketplace, or whatever it is. Define it. Okay, use some creativity, and that's another thing that I'll say here. Stop for a moment. In the world of small business ownership and entrepreneurship, you're not going to get everything handed to you, clearly laid out and defined. You're gonna have to apply some creativity, some ingenuity, and kind of reading between the lines, thinking out. I hate cliches. But thinking outside the box. There's a cliche for you. Figure some things out on your own. Not everything has to be told to you. You're grown-ups now. Once you get out in the real world, whether it's when you finish here with this program, or decide to go on and get even more education, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to figure some things out on your own. Not everything is going to be handed to you. Someone's not always going to be there to hold your hand. So I'm not saying that because I'm not willing to help. I'm I want to help you. I want you to succeed. But at the same time, it's good to show a little bit more than what is asked for. And that's hopefully the case here. All right, off my soapbox. All right, second item under product is branding. We're gonna have, I think we may even have an entire week on branding. Let me check the syllabus real quick here. In the past, that has been one session of a week, or one half of the content of a week. But I've changed it up here. Week 9 is branding. An entire week dedicated to branding. I'm hoping to have some experts talk about branding. Some interviews that I'll be including, the video recorded interviews, and certainly the content as well in the book, and then I'll have my own commentary. While I'm on that, that's well, no, I won't talk about that right now. Okay, so branding. How do you plan to establish your product or service as the preferred choice for your target market? There are a lot of aspects to branding. We'll cover them. I'm not going to cover them now. I'm not going to take the time because we've got a separate week dedicated to that. But there are a lot of aspects to branding. It's not just a logo. It's not just a name. It's not just color schemes. Okay, there's actually science behind the selection of all of those things. And although this course, you could probably, I think there actually are entire courses dedicated to branding. We don't have the time to dedicate 16 weeks to that topic. Certainly would encourage you, if that's of interest to you, to spend more time on your own outside of this course researching that. But what have you done? And so again, it's not just about the bare bones minimum of what I've put here. How do you plan to establish it? Even providing me with a logo for your proposed company. Okay, that's great. Give me some verbiage, some backing to make your argument stronger for why this is going to appeal to your target market, your target audience. Okay, what are the activities that you're going to be doing? We'll get into that during the branding week. That's an example. And now that I mentioned that, I think I'm going to have to redo the syllabus. Yeah, I did not. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, it's actually week 11 is when the outline of the marketing plan is due. The draft/outline is due. There may be some topics. I was thinking that it was earlier in the semester. There will be some topics that likely come after that. Week 12, 13. Although e-marketing is not a specific line item that you necessarily have to talk about for grading purposes as a part of this plan. It may be part of your strategy, and so for that reason you would want to talk about e-marketing. Now, that being said, we're not going to cover e-marketing until week 13, so for you to include it in the plan is going to be challenging. At least for you to include it in the draft outline is going to be challenging. Certainly you may want to put a placeholder in there in your the document that you are starting to create. Put a placeholder in there, maybe a sentence or two about it. I don't know, whatever you feel satisfies that start to show that it's going to be a reminder to you more than anything. But also it's going to be an indication to me that you plan to expound on this in your final plan, and that can only benefit you when it comes to me looking at the what kind of points I want to assign. All right, okay. But I tried to place the topics that were not absolutely required for scoring purposes. I tried to place them later in the semester after the draft or outline was due, so that you could at least the bulk of it could be included in the when you submitted your draft outline. You could have gotten some information about it, done some reading, seen some videos that I've done, videos that I pulled in from other places, and then able to include that to a certain extent in your draft outline. All right, so looking out for you there. And then from that point on, the remainder of the semester, you will. What I'll do is once I get those back from you, I will score them, give you some feedback, send them back to you as quickly as I can. Then you have the rest of the semester to work on shoring up whatever suggestions I have for you, finding more information, and that'll become more clear as the semester progresses, and certainly once you receive the draft outline back from me, after week 11 or 12, whatever week that was there. That being said, you're going to have a short amount of time. It's going to be a fairly quick turnaround for you to shore up those questions or concerns that I uncovered in your draft outline, to be able to go back and answer them. And certainly, if you up to that point, if you have not done what is necessary in the first 10 weeks, 11 weeks, it's going to be a challenge to do it in the next 4 weeks. It's going to take me a week or so to get it back to you, to get everyone's back to them. So at that point, you'll have 3 to 4 weeks. And if you haven't been able to find the bulk of that information in the first 9-10 weeks, it's really going to be a challenge to find it in the next 3 or 4. So my point in that is, and I'll go back to a statement that I made earlier: get started early. Don't wait around and think that the draft outline is not due to week 11. I can start week 8, 9, no big deal. It's going to be a challenge to do that. Keep up with the readings, keep up with the videos. Certainly you have an assignment, the blog book assignment. Learn from your classmates and what they're observing. Hopefully we've got students from various parts of the state, and I think that's wonderful. They see things differently. They have different life experiences and exposures, and so hopefully you can provide something to someone else that would benefit them, and maybe the same will be true. That they will provide something to you. So please share whatever you're thinking, seeing, observing, experiencing, have experienced things that you think could be done differently and better. And again, that's in the I think that's, what page is that? Page 3 of the syllabus, the guidelines for the blog book. Respond to each other's posts, help each other out. You're not always going to have someone, like I said earlier, holding your hand and telling you everything that needs to be done. So you have to observe, you have to learn from other people, and figure out how you can apply it to your situation. All right. Okay, enough on that. Back to the grading rubric. Next major category down is pricing. I think we have a week on pricing, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. Yep, week 10, pricing in an entrepreneurial venture. Define your cost per unit. Now, that does not mean what you're going to be selling it for. That's the next item down. Your cost per unit are, what do you have in this? And some of this will kind of flow over. I don't know. ETP 266, the entrepreneurial finance course, will really pick up a lot of this, but you need to define everything that goes into the product that you are making or the service that you're providing. Now, pricing of a service-based business is a little different. And again, hopefully I'll be able to have some interviews with some folks to provide us some even further guidance in addition to the readings and the videos that I'll be doing personally. But really want you to break it down. Like, say for example, if you're making let's say you have a restaurant and one of your the only product you offer in that restaurant is hamburgers. Okay, how much do you expect to pay on average for buns? How much do you expect to pay on average for the meat? How much do you expect to pay on average for the onions, for the tomatoes, for the lettuce, for ketchup, whatever else goes on it? Those are the kinds of things. each of the components. I mean, that's a simplistic example, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. That's what I'm going to be looking for here, is a breakdown of your cost. And the reason that's important, well, further enlightenment is found in the ETP 266 class, the Entrepreneurial Finance, because you start to look at the variables and how changes in prices, your cost, affect your bottom line. And we're not going to be getting into the finance portion of it, too deep beyond what's right here. But suffice to say that you do need to know what all goes into it, and if there's a process that you apply in putting this together, constructing a product, or if you're going to have to hire out help, I mean that's another expense, is HR cost, employee cost. You've got overhead cost, electricity, rent, all those things. If you've got a $1,500 a month rent, and your expectation is that you're going to sell 1,500 units, whatever it is, let's say it's hamburgers, all right, $1 per month, you've got $1,500 in rent, you're going to sell 1,500 units, that means $1 per month of that rent is attributed to each hamburger that you sell. Back on the hamburger example, okay? So that goes into your cost. That's a cost, that's an expense. Rent is an expense, okay? And so the further you can break that down, you get a clearer picture of what you're up against. And that's what we want to try to determine here is, does this marketing plan make sense on several levels, okay? All right, enough about that for now. We'll talk more in the pricing, the week where we cover pricing. Okay, define your selling price, taking into account all possible pricing strategies. And what does that mean? Your selling price, well, that's pretty clear. What are you charging for this? Okay. Now let me. What is meant by taking into account all possible pricing strategies? Okay. Consider, this is a fairly easy one, but for simplicity's sake, a 20-ounce soda. All right. Take your pick. Coke, Pepsi. I like Grape Co. All right. If I go to Sam's Club or Costco or some other major warehouse discount retailer type place, and I buy a 20-pack, I don't know what they come in besides that size, but let's say a 20-pack of Grape Co, 20-ounce Grape Co's. All right, I'm probably going to pay less per bottle than I would if I bought a single bottle at Walmart. If it's just on the shelf at Walmart, it's not in the cooler section. So makes sense. I mean, you've seen it. That makes sense. It's the same product. I've got it packaged differently, and so because I'm buying it in bulk, I pay less per unit. All right. So that's actually two examples already. A third would be when you go to your local convenience store, gas station, Quickie Mart, whatever, and they've got a little mini fridge type thing, or even the large coolers where you open the door and you pull one out, and they're $1.79, $1.39, whatever they are. All right, you're buying it individually, just like I may have bought an individual one, room temperature one. At Walmart or some other place, and it might have been 99 cents there. All right, but because they put it in a cooler and they had it cool for me, and that is the that's the environment. It was in a place. It was readily available. It was right there at the counter as I'm paying for my gas. Okay, I'm gonna get a 20-ounce drink also. It's convenience. It's in a form, temperature. The form is how I want it. I want it cool. I want a cold drink. Okay, so by changing up the delivery method, the setting, and some other components, some other aspects of it, you can change the price point. So that's what I'm talking about here when I say take into account all possible pricing strategies. Now, you as the producer of this soda, in this case Grapico, you are, it may be difficult for you to sell it to the end seller, be it Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart, Texaco, whatever. You're probably going to have a pretty tight range of pricing that you offer it to them. And so if that's your business is producing the product, it may be challenging to come up with different price points, but that's the goal of this, is to find those different price points. What is it that might convenience, what convenience would allow you to charge more? Previous semesters, I've, without giving away the product, had someone who had a beach-related product. Selling it in Coleman-Hanceville area, they would likely price it at one price point. If they were selling it at the beach, it would have an entirely different price point. 30-40% higher, certainly on the retail side. Now they could also justify selling it to the end seller at a higher price than they would someone who a little retail store in the Coleman-Hanceville area. Okay, so that's the approach that I want you to take whenever you look at what it is that you have to offer and how you could price it differently. Okay, and I can't tell you what that is for your product. I can't. We've got 2 or 3 dozen students in this course, and so I can't go individually and tell you exactly what that could be. And again, that goes back to you got to figure some things out for yourself. You can get some guidance, then you have to figure some things out for yourself. You're grown-ups now. Okay, all right. Moving on. Taking enough time on that. The third major category is promotion. What is your value proposition? We're going to spend some time talking about value propositions and how you kind of position your company. What information are you holding out to the public that you want known about what it is that you have to offer. Okay, we'll spend some time talking about that in the weeks ahead. Next subcategory: what is your target market, including geographic, psychographic, and demographic measures, and we'll talk about that in the weeks ahead. Next subcategory: how will you get your message to your target market? Consider all possibilities. Okay, and again, it may be some of this may be tied in to what we just talked about. The pricing. I'll have some better examples when the time comes, but the delivery method that you use in one market or for one price point may be entirely different than you do for a separate market. Okay, so that's very generic, and we'll go into more detail later, but that's what that means. Okay, let's see, this is page 3. We've got place and placement. Distribution. How do you plan to get your products or services in the hands of your customers? And again, this is not a one line and I'm done kind of answer. Let's say you're just going to be producing a product, and I've had students in the past who had a goal of manufacturing a product. Again, I don't disclose what those are for privacy reasons, because I feel that's the way to handle things. But let's say they wanted to get their product into a major retailer. Let's use Walmart or Babies R Us or Kohl's or something of that nature. How do you go about doing that? Okay. It's great. You're not going to be. Your real goal is production of this thing. You don't really have a desire to yourself or expertise to get it into the hands of the person that's going to be using it. And there are distribution networks that are set up, and why not take advantage of it? That's great. But does that require if you want to get it on the shelves at Walmart? What does that mean? Okay, are you going to have to pay a shelf fee? What is the lingo that's used in the industry? Is it shelf fee? Is it something else? Are you going to have to pay for for top shelf, middle shelf, low shelf? You're going to be relegated to the low shelf, which may not get much attention. We'll talk a little bit about that more later. Are you going to have to meet with someone? Walmart's headquarters is in Fayetteville, Arkansas. You're going to have to drive to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and have meetings. Who are you going to meet with? Those are the kind of things that I want you to be talking about. And if that's your goal, you need to be finding out who that person is. I'm serious about that. Go do some research. How you go about finding out who it is that you'll need to talk to at Walmart headquarters. Maybe you've got a toy, maybe you've got a hardware item. They have different buyers for different different sections in Walmart. You need to find out who that is, because if you, true to life, have plans for doing this at some point in the future, you're going to need that information anyway. Go ahead and do it now. That's the benefit of one of the benefits of going through a course like this. Go ahead and find out who it is. Now, you may not make that contact now, certainly. You're probably not ready. But having the information, and even if that person changes, let's say it's 3 to 5 years down the road before you actually get ready to do that, you will have gone through the process. Departments. You may actually even choose to go ahead and speak with someone, maybe not the buyer, but someone there, and make some contacts and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. Don't worry about it. They get calls like that all the time. They get prospected all the time. They're comfortable giving that information. Promise you. Okay. So if it's a piece of clothing you want to manufacture, a line of dresses, or baby clothing, or whatever it is, go ahead and figure out how you're going. If it's through another set of retail stores, or a single retail store, are you going to be selling it out of your house? You're going to have a place set up. Or a way to do that. Are you going to have salespeople? You're going to have a place in a different city. That kind of flows into our next section here, the location. Where will your business be located? Are you going to have a physical location, or are you going to rely solely on other distribution channels that have already been set up, distribution networks that have already been set up? That's fine for getting that end product into the hands of consumers. However, even if that is the case, you still have a place of business. You do. Wherever it is that you do what you do. Design, marketing, the accounting, making phone calls, computer work, whatever it is, you have a place of business. Even if you don't have a retail store, you have a place of business. Even if you have a service business that is internet based, you have a place of business. So where is it? All right. Some of the things, now again, this is just some of the things that you need to be thinking about and including. And I'm going to go ahead and state it because when I taught this class in the past, things like this have been missed. Okay, and I wasn't explicit about it, yes, and so I didn't count off. But I wanted these are the kind of things that I want to make sure that you include. And things and more. The and more part shows me that you're thinking again outside the box. All right. So here are some things that show me that will show me that. Well, if I hadn't told you, it would have shown me that. Location. All right. Design of a building. Okay, if you have a building in mind that you're considering, see if you can get the floor plan for it. There are there's a ton of information online. Counties now, tax assessors' offices in a number of counties throughout the state will have surprisingly large amount of information online. Okay, go in. Some of them even have the drawings of the buildings. If it's multi-story, it'll show that. It'll have first floor, second floor. It'll show where stairwells. I mean, just like a blueprint almost. You can include that. Because store layout. Excuse me. For example, if you had a retail store, the layout and design of your floor plan. is going to be based off of what your restrictions are. You need to know, how many square feet you have available to you. That's going to determine where the placement of clothing racks are, where you put your register. Do you put mirrors in the back of the store so you can see from the front to the back if someone is stuffing something in their purse, or putting on an extra piece of clothing under a skirt or something, trying to sneak out of your store. So those are the kind of things that you need to talk about in this place and placement. Yes, place and placement indicates where is this activity going to take place. But there's more to it than that. There's so much more that you need to be thinking about. And I'll give you some things along the way. I gave you some just now. But I want you to really be thinking about what do I need to have in place? What am I going to be up against? And how do you do that? Here's one way you do it. Number one, go out and observe. Number two, report on it in your blog. Say, I saw this here, because I'm thinking about getting into this type of business. So I went and I saw the design of this, this clothing store, and if it were me, I would have done it slightly different. I'd done this or that, and I'd have made sure that we had better lighting over here. I'd had extra employees. I'd had fewer employees. I had too many employees on the floor. Those are the kind of things that observations that you can be looking at. That's marketing. That's marketing. That's sales and marketing. Design of the space that you'll be utilizing. Okay? That's marketing. Because when a customer, anything that helps a customer make a decision about buying your product is marketing. Floor design, it may be unconscious, it may be subconscious, however you want to describe it, but it does play into making decisions about whether or not to buy from one place versus another. Okay, so those are the kind of things you need to talk about in the place and placement. Taxes, how much that's more important in the finance course, the entrepreneurial finance course, but how much are you going to pay in taxes? If you own this place. Now, if you lease it, different. Certainly, someone else is going to be covering they own it. They're going to pay the taxes on it, but they're going to incorporate that that expense, their expense for owning the building, into your lease payment. So, how much are you going to have to pay in rent? Okay, what you need to do, you need to do some market comparisons. You need to look at space in the city where you think you want to be, and do some comparisons. It may require talking to a realtor. Now, certainly, realtors' time is valuable. They want to sell, and if they know going into it, certainly if you tell them up front that, hey, I got a class project, that they may be less likely to help you. You may find someone that is completely willing to help you, especially if because of you present it to them in that way. They say, oh, great, they're trying to make contacts as well. They may see an opportunity down the road, and so they may be willing to give you 15 minutes of time. Let's see. I had another thought about place and placement. Street maps. Where is the proposed building located? It may be good to in this plan to include a drawing or a map, Yahoo Maps or MapQuest, Google Maps, whatever, of this, and traffic flow. How much traffic goes by there on a daily basis. One of my jobs in college. This was not my entire job, but I worked for Office Supply Store. I forget which one now. I think it was Office Depot. But one day, it was not a full day, but my entire shift that I worked, they paid me to go sit in the parking lot of Office Max and keep account of certain things. How many people went in and obviously out, but that would be different based on when it started and when it ended. How many came out with packages? How many came out with computers and printers and the observable, the things that you could tell that were not bagged up, furniture, and that they were trying to get a count of these different things, and they were taking that information and hour by hour, 15-minute blocks or whatever, and they were going to use that back at corporate headquarters for something, okay, and that kind of it was this kind of information, what kind of traffic flow do we expect? Now traffic flow, actually parking and going in, is one thing. That's different than cars that are driving by, what you would consider potential clients or customers. But that's the kind of thing that you need to track, is what is the potential? What is the prospective number of clients that I might get? Had a client, well, let's see, can I tell that? No. Don't want to reveal. But traffic count is important because if especially in conjunction with signage, and there's another thing. What are sign ordinances in the city where you'll be locating? What is the minimum requirement for parking spaces? The building that you're looking at, does it have 4 dedicated or designated parking spaces, and you really need 6? Okay, what's that? Sorry, but next door there's a type of business that is entirely conflicting to the kind of business clientele that you hope to attract. Okay, what do you do about that? Write that into your marketing plan, saying, when I go into a lease arrangement, I'm going to put stipulations in the lease that this type of business and this type of business and this type of business cannot locate here, or else I'm absolved from having to pay, and I'm released from my lease arrangement, or something like that. Wow, that's great. That you planned ahead and thought about the complications that you might experience and how to get out of it. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. That's not defined here. Sorry, I'm pointing at something that you can't see. That's not defined here in place and placement, but that's the kind of things going above and beyond what it is that I've the minimum that I've asked for. All right, and those are the kind of things that if you do decide to go into business for yourself, that you really need to be thinking about. What am I going to be up against? What are my challenges? Yes, this is the bare bones minimum, but what else do I need to consider? And sometimes that just comes with time, experience, wisdom. That's what wisdom is time and experience, and talking with other people and say, hey, I know you've got this type of business. It's not the same as what I'm wanting to go into, but what are some challenges? What are some things with regards to this or this or this that you would suggest that I look out for? I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, but another class that's going on this semester, ETP 279. It's small business management. The major project in that course is interview an entrepreneur. And we've got some other smaller things as well, but those are the kind of things that you can actually ask someone who's in business. Take and sometimes, unfortunately, you have to kind of help them out. They, it's like asking someone, well, hey, I'm, who do you know that wants to buy this or that? Okay, well, if you ask me that, I may say, well, who do you know that needs a new couch? Well, gosh, right offhand, I don't know anyone. Okay, well, who do you know that drives a red truck that needs a new couch? Oh, well, that kind of narrows the field down and helps me to focus better. And I say, oh, well, I know this person, yeah, they drive a red truck, and this person drives a red truck, that one drives a blue. Even though someone drives a blue truck, they have already entered my mind as a possible candidate for what it is that you're selling. And that's what I'm getting at with regards to if you were to go through an interview process like this, you may have to help them out and kind of prompt them as to the type of information that they would be looking for. And so even though this course, that's not an assignment, there's nothing to say that you can't do that, especially if you know someone well enough. If you know a business owner, friend of the family, maybe someone in your family is a business owner. going to them and presenting them with these questions, with these topical issues, and saying, hey, what do you think about this, or here's something that we're studying. How's that applied in your business? How do you work with that? You will learn so much doing that. Probably even more than you'll learn in this course. I'm not ashamed to say that, but that's the way it is. You learn from experience of others. Okay, I can only tell you so much. I can only guide you so much. You have to get out there and figure some things out for yourself, and ask questions of other people who are doing it. Get guidance. Formulate for yourself the way that you want to do it, and then go for it. All right. Back on the grading rubric again. I got off track, as I do many times. So that's place and placement. Market research, we are going to, I think we have an entire week on that as well. Week 5, just a couple of weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away here now. Got an entire week dedicated to market research. Market research can be very extensive. It is difficult to put together a good marketing plan without a good market research component. Okay. Even though there are only a couple of subcategories here, and the points, I think that's only 35 points there I see, that's not substantial to the overall 250 points. This is a very, very important section, and the 2 sub-items there that I've defined don't probably do it justice, and I hope you will find that you will see that to be true whenever we go through it in week 5. But those are, what sources did you use to help make your decisions? Okay, and we'll talk about industry trade magazines, journals, information at libraries. It may be individuals. It may be there are a lot of different sources that you can use, and you need to document them. That's the other thing, is documenting. Put footnotes. Footnote everything you think may be remotely important. It's fine. It'll help you when you do get ready to go, to carry through with this marketing plan. It'll help you feel more solid about the decision that you made to do this. The other part of that is, if you were ever to seek funding from a bank or a private investor, they're going to want to know this stuff, and that's the purpose of this, of a business plan. In that course, I teach. There are two purposes of it. One is to keep you on track, and 2 is to show an investor, be it a lender or someone that's providing equity capital, that you know what you're doing, and it's a roadmap. That's what a business plan is, and a marketing plan being a component of that. It's a roadmap, and so and market research helps you. It helps them to feel better about it, because if you can document sources and say, here's where I got this fact, they can go to it and see it. And I promise you, if they're looking at 2 plans side by side for the same business, let's say you've got an auto mechanic garage, this person wants to borrow money and you want to borrow money, and you've got a very similar plan and laid out, and you've got all this stuff documented, and their plan is grand, and it's going to return so much money to the investors. Your plan, you were more realistic. And a part of that was you documented where you got information and numbers. They're going to be able to go to that source and say, they're right on. This person over here, they had grand plans for growth, but I have nothing to base it on. So when it comes down to that kind of decision, they're more than likely they're going to go with yours, because it's more realistic. And you have proof of where you got your numbers from. So I say that to say, document, footnote, any and everything that you think may be important when it comes to this plan. The market research section is one of the primary sections that you should be doing that. Okay, again, we'll spend more time on that later. So what sources did you use, and what were your findings? by the time that you submit the draft outline, you may not have all the answers yet, but you should, at the very least, for this section, but you should at the very least have already gotten things set up. You know, you've got that framework for this section. You've got some idea, some layout, and even if it is bullet points for the draft outline, that's fine. Now, for the final version, it should be more like you were writing a paragraph. Oops.